Okay, go.
Welcome everyone to the Township Council Workshop, Monday, May 4th, 2020. This meeting is now called to order. Mr. Crucia, please lead us in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Kraus, please read the statement of public notice.
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. Notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the Municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 9, 2020. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date. This meeting is being conducted under the circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 health situation. No public will be allowed to attend the meeting in person. A YouTube link to view this meeting can be accessed on the Township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during the public comment portion of this meeting.
Thank you. At this time, Mrs. Kraus, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Coordinator? Present. Councilmember Kawadi?
Present.
Councilmember Sieber? Present. Councilmember Vanchery?
Present.
Council President Scoba?
Present. We're going to go to the mayor's report and the administrator, and then we'll open to public. Mayor?
Thank you, Council President. First, I'm going to start with an update regarding the COVID situation. And as they say, no news is good news. And fortunately, I have very little to report this evening as far as COVID in the Township of Little Falls. That said, there is some unfortunate news to report. There was an additional death. We do have a total of 4 deaths in Little Falls. But last week, the numbers did slow down dramatically, which is very good news. We have not had a new reported case Saturday, Sunday, or even up through today on Monday. So that is very good news for us here. Of course, that does not reason to forego any of the prior recommendations of social distancing and things of the sort, but we do have some recent good news. That said, there have been 2 executive orders that have been, one executive order and 1 announcement today since our last council meeting. On May 2nd, the governor, his executive order 133, as far as county and state parks being allowed to reopen. Playgrounds, visitor centers, pavilions, and restrooms remained closed. That is the same right now for us here in Little Falls. We are conforming to those same guidelines. Parking was capped at 50%. Social distancing was still mandated, and there were no picnics, organized activities, or team sports permitted. And today, as most people are aware, Governor Murphy announced that all schools will remain closed for in-person instruction for the remainder of the school year in order to protect the health of the students, educators, and their families. I know this is certainly heartbreaking for a lot of students, especially those on their big milestone years. So our thoughts are definitely with all of the students who are going through one of those major milestones. Unfortunately, for the greater good, we all need to take this one on the chin and stay home so that everyone can remain safe. But you are all certainly being thought about, and I wish that you were able to enjoy these last several weeks of school, as they are certainly joyous as long as you get through your tests. But unfortunately, schools will remain closed for the remainder of this year. That said, that's all that I actually have in regards to COVID, which is much better than a lot of our prior weeks. Unless there are any questions from Council President or council members, I'll move on to the actual report of items on the agenda.
Does the council have any questions or comments regarding the mayor's report on the COVID? I imagine, Mayor, maybe one of the questions is when do you think you may, or what's your plan to open up our parks here in town?
Sure. So right now, and that's a great question, and this has been a discussion amongst a lot of the mayors on our county conference calls that we have several times per week. There is no mayor in Passaic County that is currently saying, I want to be the first to open all of my parks and playgrounds, because unfortunately, if you do, that will then, it's likely you'll see an influx, not only from your town or even the surrounding towns, but maybe from all over, where you'll have an influx of people who will then, cause us to take, 5 steps backwards and have to reclose parks and go through all of this again. So we are certainly right now, it seems the consensus is we're going to follow the state's lead in this. They do have the authority to keep all of our parks, even local parks, closed if they chose. They haven't done that. They're leaving that up to municipalities, but all of the municipalities and cities have sort of agreed that we're going to take the state's lead, at least for now, to determine, when we should be reopening our park. So unfortunately, I don't have an exact answer as to what a date or what a time may be that we see that on the horizon, but it is definitely something that we'll continue to monitor, and when we deem it safe enough that we're able to do that again, we certainly will be doing that. I would hate to see kids unable to play all summer, but if that becomes something that's necessitated by this virus, then unfortunately we'll have to brunt and get through that as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 1.
Thank you. So item number 1 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Strategies. As many know, Millennium Strategies is a third-party vendor that the municipality uses to secure grant opportunities. We have used them now for, I believe, this is our 4th year utilizing them. They've been very successful for us in securing substantial grants, actually the largest grants that the township has ever seen over the past handful of years, including some $600,000 and $700,000 singular grants, and a lot of years exceeding the $1 million mark by leaps and bounds. That said, they have a professional on board who is an expert in securing reimbursements for federal funding and emergency funding. And this expert, really all that they do is they work to secure typically FEMA grants after natural disasters and the like. And of course, we're uncertain exactly what funding will become available for reimbursements following this pandemic, but we certainly want to be first on board to be reimbursed for all of the expenses that we would have incurred. So I am recommending to the council that we award Millennium Strategies. It's a nominal amount. Chuck, do you know the exact amount for this additional service? I believe it was
What's 100?
several $1,000s.
Several, yeah, below the quote.
Well, yes, well below the quote threshold. And again, this could be for reimbursement of potentially tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So it was something that I was recommending to this council because I believe this investment would be well worthwhile to secure any loans, or I'm sorry, any grants or funding opportunities that are out there. Are there any questions on this topic?
How does, when we hire, well, I know we've hired this company, we have them employed now. How do they judge, like, what town gets the grants? I mean, they have so many customers, right? They have so many clients. How do they navigate that? How do they decide, well, Little Falls will get it instead of my other client, or?
Well, they do have a handful, but I can tell you, throughout the 530 some odd municipalities in the state, they only service a handful compared to that. So there's certainly, we certainly want to be in that upper echelon of municipalities getting these reimbursements.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2.
Sure. Item number 2 is the resolution rescinding the resolution establishing the rate of interest for delinquent taxes. Fortunately or unfortunately, last meeting, I recommended to the council that a resolution be passed which authorized or reset the interest rate on delinquent taxes to 0%. The issue with that is, since we have had our meeting, there was an executive order entered by the governor that specifically stated that what we did was no longer going to be permitted to actually occur, and that we are not allowed to set interest rates at 0, but rather that the state was going to extend the grace period for taxes to be paid to June 1st. Now, in order to do that, the local municipalities or cities have to adopt a resolution that say, we agree with what the governor recommended, because that is not typically permitted, that the grace period be extended. But he said that if municipalities pass resolutions extending the grace period to June 1st, then it would be permitted under these circumstances only. I guess one of the issues that we ran into is, once the resolution was passed setting the delinquent taxes to 0, an issue that we ran into is there were several banks in North Jersey that began calling municipalities trying to inquire what deadline municipalities had set on the taxes that would be owed, and others indicating that they were not, if interest was zero, that there was no incentive for them to pay. This put a lot of municipalities in a bind. So unfortunately, it's something that we did not want to run into, a problem with a bank being delinquent in their payment. So for the reasons that the governor set forth, one being that we are now permitted to extend the grace period to June 1st, the other being that we were not permitted to amend the interest rate beyond, or amend the interest rate at this time, I'm recommending to the council that we rescind our prior resolution, which set the interest rate at 0 and reset the interest rate at 8% on the first $1,500 and 18% on any amount over that, as well as extending the grace period to June 1st in accordance with the governor's order.
Does council have any questions regarding the rescinding resolution on item number 2? So I gather come June 1st, then the interest rate kicks in for those that don't pay their taxes on June 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Just as if the grace period would typically be for us 10 days beyond the original due date, so typically it would be May 10th unless that fell on a weekend for us here. It is the same exact guidelines that will apply, except the May 10th date becomes June 1st.
Seeing there's no other questions or comment, Mayor, number 3?
Sure. Number 3 is the resolution calling for payment to Township due to a tax appeal settlement with Floyd Hall Enterprises, LLC. I guess the timing on this is good in that we are certainly looking for all revenues as a municipality, as are all of them across the state, or even the country for that matter, based upon what's going on. And we were able to reach a settlement with Floyd Hall Enterprises. For those that don't know, that's the ice skating rink that is located within the confines of Montclair State University. They were privately operated, and while we were permitted to go back just a couple of years and file a tax appeal with them to attempt to have them pay the taxes for the years that they were operating while a private enterprise. We were successful in that appeal, and we have entered into a settlement with them for the payment of taxes for several years' worth of taxes owed to the municipality. Unfortunately, they have since, I guess, I don't want to use the word smartened up, but have utilized the statutes available to them to again become tax exempt because they are now part of Montclair State University, a state institution which cannot be taxed by the local municipality. The good news is that we have entered into an agreement with them to pay the township the sum of $192,467.12. And again, the timing is good right now considering all municipalities are certainly looking for all sources of revenue. So this settlement came at a good time for us here. So I am recommending that the council enter into or pass the resolution that permits the tax appeal settlement to be approved so that we can enter into the settlement with Floyd Hall Arena.
Any questions or comment regarding item number 3? Mayor, item number 4?
Sure, the estimated tax bill resolution. The estimated tax bill resolution is the fairly standard resolution that is passed, I guess, essentially every single year. But what we are essentially doing is setting the tax levy for 2020 at $48,519,134. And the estimated tax rate for 2020 being set to the 3.216, as is customary after budgets are passed. And I believe that is essentially the nutshell of the estimated tax bill resolution.
Any questions, comments on item number 4? Number 5, Mayor?
Sure. Number 5 is the bond ordinance for the installation of turf at Duva Field. Something that has been discussed, as many know, for a very, very long time, is the installation of synthetic turf at Duva Field. And we are continuing to move along the process of the engineering associated with the turf project, despite COVID having been here upon us. We are now at the phase where The lines for the fields are being discussed. I've been in discussions with the LFAC and the LFFPA, as well as our rec department, to discuss the sizes of the appropriate fields, to discuss the lines that should be on the fields, which sports should be located where, bleacher setups, all of those things. And in order to do that, we will need to fund the cost of the project, and I am asking that this council authorize the issuance of $3 million to complete the installation of this field. That said, there is a substantial figure that we have aside in various grants that can be applied towards this field. We've asked the county for approval to utilize the funds from our Lewis Street field that we received in open space funds last year to the tune of $250,000. We've asked that the additional $150,000 that we received this year from the county for open space funds be applied to that. And we've also received a 25% grant from Green Acres that will allow us to have 25% of the total cost of the project, up to $3 million, funded through Green Acres. So we do have a substantial amount of offsetting grants that we are going to utilize and apply towards the expense of this turf project. So although I am asking that this council approve the issuance of $3 million worth of bonds, I do not believe that we will nearly broach the $3 million out-of-pocket expense by the time the grants are finally reimbursed to us.
Questions regarding the turf field at Duva Field? Comments? Seeing none, Mayor, item number 5?
Sure. Item number 5, Council
sorry.
President, number 6.
Number 6, I apologize.
Yes, item number 6 is the bond ordinance for the acquisition of property for parking. And something that has been discussed now for, it's been going on probably 2 years now here amongst myself and council at public meetings, was the acquisition of the PNC Bank parking lot. As most, if not all, know, we have already acquired the first 3 homes along Stanley Street as a municipality with the intent of turning that, as well as the PNC Bank parking lot, into a municipal parking lot. And we are in final discussions and settlement discussions with PNC currently about receiving that or purchasing that property from them. We are hoping to enter into some sort of a deal that will allow us to acquire the property somewhat below fair market value, and in exchange for that offset of the lower value that we will purchase it for, during banking hours, we will be required to provide the bank with a certain number of spaces that they can use for their customers, as well as their administrative staff. Those numbers have not been completely finalized at this point, but what I'm asking for is for this council to introduce Bond Ordinance 1384, that to appropriate $500,000 towards the purchase of this. Again, hopeful that the final number will be far below the $500,000 purchase price of the lot, but of course, there is additional work that needs to be done, including the demolition of some properties, and then eventually some work, of course, to turn it into an official municipal parking lot. So I'm asking for the council's support in passing Bond Ordinance number 1384 this evening.
Questions regarding 1384, comments? Mayor, do you have any communications from any residents?
I do, Council President, and I have a couple of other updates after that. I received one communication from a resident about this particular parking lot, and the comment reads, and it's from Renee Shapiro on Walnut Street: congrats on the PNC. Great job. Thank you for making that happen. Only since 2004 and 3 other mayors tried, and you did it. So there was certainly some appreciation there. This has certainly been discussed for some time, so I am happy that this is really coming finally to the realization of the municipality soon actually owning that lot for municipal parking.
Mayor, you have some other items you want to discuss? The air conditioning on our rec center, Donato Drive?
Yes, I do, Councilor. The air conditioning at the rec center. The recreation center, as any child or parent who has been there in the summer months in recent years would know, there was no air conditioning in the rec center. And it was stifling hot and stiflingly humid inside that building if you were there during the warmer months, especially as sports continued, and there was a lot of people running around in there and a lot of people watching and participating in all of the sporting activities. Well, the hot summer days are coming to an end inside the rec center, at least, because the air conditioning unit is in the final stages of being installed this week. and it should be fully operational within the next week or so, or maybe two. I do know that some of the crews are working not on full staff, so some projects are taking a little bit longer, but it should be finalized within this month without question. We should have the AC finalized at the rec center. It's a very large unit. Several of us could probably live in there at one time and still maintain social distancing guidelines, but it is certainly large, and it should certainly keep that building plenty cool during the summer months. So certainly happy to report that this evening. And as far as Donato Drive, I actually took a ride there again just earlier today. Donato Drive is, as most people know, especially those living in that area, they are certainly well aware, it is very much under construction. We are heading towards the final installation of the Complete Streets project, which was funded by a DOT grant going back to the year 2017. It was one of the first grants that I received after being elected mayor. It was a grant to the tune of $600,000 for Donato Drive. The project cost just slightly over that, and this includes Donato, Pine, and as well as the smaller cul-de-sacs in that area. So there is certainly a major improvement. New Belgian blocks have been installed. There's been a major upgrade to drainage in that area, which has always been an issue on the streets. And very soon, they should be milling and repaving the roadway there, and that project will be completed very, very soon. So I am thrilled that that project will be reaching conclusion very soon, and happy to see that they'll be able to return to some sense of normalcy in that area very, very soon.
Does the council have any questions or comments regarding air conditioning at the Civic Center or Donato Drive? Mayor, anything else?
That is all that I have, unless there are any questions.
Mayor? Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor.
Wonder, Mayor, if you can just give an update with all the work that's being done along Main Street?
Yes, very good point, Councilman Vanchery. If you've been out over the past couple of weeks, and I will tell you frankly, I have not really run into the construction at all because I have been largely trying to stay home during the days. But for those that have been out for one reason or another, there has been some construction on Main Street lately. And this goes back a couple of years. I know people have been anxious to see Main Street repaved. We are actually reaching the conclusion of all of the road work, at least between Patterson Avenue and Lower Notch or Broward Town Road area. And the gas mains, as many of you know, were installed a couple of years ago. The water main was recently dug up, and a new one was recently installed just this past fall, summer into the fall. The 3 months of settlement have expired, and the ground has now been permitted to settle. But in order to come back and repave the road, the contractor was required to dig up all of the asphalt and put in concrete, because under the base of many of our county roads is actually concrete below the asphalt paving that you see. So once this concrete has been completed along the entire length of it, and there's really only about, I think the entire main is done, and there's only a handful of laterals left to be poured with concrete. Once that is concluded, which may actually be by the end of this week, shortly thereafter we will be able to come back and have Main Street completely repaved from Patterson Ave all the way up towards Lower Notch area. So it is long overdue, and I am happy to say that that will soon be done. I think the timing of it, again, fortunately or unfortunately, due to this COVID outbreak, it worked out semi-perfect for us in that there should be, and there has been, very few cars on the road lately, so the interruption to most people's daily lives beyond what COVID has done has been minimal.
Are there any other questions or comments for the mayor at this time? Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public matters? So it was moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilman Kawadi. All those in favor of opening for public matters signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so by sending an email to ckraus@lfnj.com. The email must provide your name and address for the record. At this time, there will be a 10-minute recess, which will allow the public to send comments and questions via email. At the end of the recess, the meeting will reconvene and all proper emails will be read into the record. Council President will determine if a response is needed, and if so, shall direct said response. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
So I have 7:26, so in 10 minutes, I guess it's 7:36. We'll resume the meeting at 7:36.
Audio off.
My recess, waiting for email comments and questions. Mayor, at this time, have any residents or concerned citizens sent us any questions or comments?
Yes, we received a handful of questions and comments this evening, the first of which is from Luis Fernandez at 54 Harrison Street. Mr. Fernandez's question reads, Mr. Mayor, after all the grants from different entities come in, how much does the Township of Little Falls will have to bond to complete the $3 million mark? This is in reference to number 1383. The first answer to that question is the Township has liability of up to $1.85 million, so $1,850,000, because we received grants of up to $1,150,000. Now, that said again, because of the 25% match or the 25% offering by Green Acres, the municipality will only have to spend $1,850,000 if the project itself hits the $3 million mark on the nose. Again, those figures are obviously subject to change as the figures for the project differ or change as the project is constructed. So to answer that question, the number is up to $1,850,000. There is another part to this question. It says, also, in these financial difficult times when all you read is how the state of New Jersey is on the brink of being bankrupt, every TV station paints an ugly picture, and every expert predicts a recession in the very near future. Do you think that bonding such a huge amount of money is the right thing to do, or maybe it should be postponed for when the economy recuperates? To answer that question, and this is only a personal opinion on this is certainly not all of the council members' opinions or anyone else's, just being put on the spot with this question. My answer is, frankly, bonding these types of expenses over periods of time are certainly bearable for overall, especially when a town has been financially prudent as we have, and encouraging the redevelopment that we have seen with the anticipated revenues that we will collect from them. That said, it's going to be times when people are having difficulties financially that they're probably going to want to be able to get out more than ever to enjoy time, whether it be movies in the park that we can host on the new turf at the field, or attend events that the town can hold for them on this new beautiful facility at no cost, so that they don't have to incur costs on weekends to go out and do things with their kids. And this is an expense that, while I understand your position, it is an expense that I believe is going to pay dividends to not only the children of our community, but all of the adults and families in our community as well, because this field is really going to be an asset for everyone. Whether you're 2 years old or 92 years old, there's going to be something for you to come to or do on this field and in this park at Duva Field. So again, I understand your position, but I do believe that this field is going to pay dividends for everyone, regardless of your age. And I hope that we see you at a movie night or something like that soon there, once this project is completed.
Mayor, before you continue, does the council want to address Mr. Fernandez's questions about us moving forward in this economic challenging time? Mayor, the next question. Go ahead, Councilman Quaddi.
Yeah, I want to agree with the mayor and just say that, in a time where there is potentially some issues with the economy, doing what we can to make your home more valuable by increasing the services that the town has to offer only benefits the residents. And so this is exactly the sort of improvement that if somebody thought that something might happen detrimentally to the economy, you want your town to be either staying the same or declining at a slower rate than towns in the area. So a project like this only helps that situation.
Thank you, Councilman Quaddi. Anybody else? Mayor?
Sure. Mr. Fernandez also asked, if my memory serves me well, when you received public funds, Green Acres, the Township of Little Falls is no longer in charge of the field. Since the township took public taxpayers' money, anybody from any town nearby or further away can come and play, and Little Falls has absolutely nothing to say. That is not entirely true as written. You are correct. The township has consistently taken taxpayer funds, whether it be Green Acres dollars or open space dollars from the county for years and years and years and years now. There is certainly some additional requirements for Green Acres funding. However, we will have priority with all of our sporting events. There are also fees associated with the usage of our fields. And this is yet another way for the municipality to generate revenues by the using our fields or renting our fields out to other individuals. And it is certainly something that, again, may be permitted, and it always has been, but it is definitely a way that once we beautify this park system, that we can actually generate additional revenues from it. So sure, if somebody else is looking to come in when there's no Little Falls sport being played on our field, and they're looking to have some activity there, they are certainly permitted to do so, and they can, again, pay the associated fee for that time on the field.
Council, have any questions, any follow-up to that? Mayor, the next comment?
Sure, and Mr. Fernandez has another comment, and it was, I recall years ago, something similar happened in a town nearby, and the liability insurance went through the roof since it was no longer just the residents of that town, but anybody that felt like playing on that field, and since the field was brand new and beautiful, they came in bunches from different towns. I don't know what town you're referring to. I don't know that the liability insurance increased in the town that you're referring to without a more specific indication of what town it is, and I'd be happy to look into it. I guess I can't really comment on whether or not that's true, false, or where that stands. So while I understand the concern, and I certainly hope that the field is beautiful, again, we have a fee ordinance in place that requires fees to be paid for the usage of our fields and things like that. And if we notice that there is a lot of usage, we can increase the fees and either A, generate more revenues for the municipality if people still want to use them, or curtail and limit the amount of usage that the fields will have as a result of the fee for the field being high enough that pickup games are not going to be played there.
Mayor, any other comments or questions?
There is, Council President, there is one other question from Mr. Arnold Karakin, who resides at 181 Long Hill Road. And his public comment is in reference to Ordinance 1384 regarding the acquisition of the PNC parking lot located at the northeast corner of Stevens Avenue and Stanley Street, Block 110, Lot 21, for public parking at a cost of $500,000. I have several questions. One, in a letter from the mayor, which appeared in the summer 2019 issue of the Little Falls magazine, Mayor Damiano wrote, with respect to our town center and the recent concerns regarding the potential for parking issues in the future, the township is in the process of preparing a final parking plan. At that time, we will be seeking resident input to best serve the needs of the town. A, has the township completed its final parking plan? B, when will the final parking plan be made available to the public? C, when will the township schedule a public meeting to obtain resident input as to how to best serve the needs of the town? 2, what is the total cost? I'm sorry, Council President, I'm going to answer
Yeah, we'll
one
start to
first,
get
and
so
then
many. Let's A and B tie them.
and we will certainly address the remainder of the
ahead.
subparts of the question. So with regards to the parking lot, has the township completed its final parking plan? The township is certainly in the process of completing the final parking plan. The one that was presented here at a council meeting on an easel with a Sharpie indicating preliminary parking plan was clearly and certainly not the final one. We have had our planner involved since then. There have been some additional drawings. In fact, the final parking plan may incorporate even more of the Transit Village application that we filed a number of years ago, and may include a larger waiting area for residents to access the bus system here in Little Falls. So there certainly will be an absolute final plan that will be prepared and finalized shortly. It will be made available. Unfortunately, I would have liked to unveil it here at a public meeting for everyone to see physically, but I guess those were different times just a couple months ago. So we will either look to do that in the next month or two if we are able to, and if not, we can publish and present this information online. And I actually had been considering, I used to frequently or occasionally host town hall style meetings. Might be a perfect opportunity for something similar, where we can do it through Zoom, provide access information for everybody, and host a meeting where everybody can, add their comments to it and make their comments, so we can try to incorporate any reasonable concerns that people may have. So we are in the process of finalizing the final parking plan, and that will be made available to the public. So that also answers Part C to this. When will the township schedule the public meeting to obtain resident input? I believe that would be the best way to do it. I tend to enjoy the town hall style meetings where they're somewhat less formal and we're able to enter into a much greater dialogue without additional limitations that may be imposed at regular meetings such as this. So that was question one, Council President. Any comments or questions from yourself or the council?
Council have any questions regarding the question from Mr. Karakin about the parking plan? Mayor?
Sure. On question number 2 is what is the total cost incurred by the township to acquire PNC parking lot as well as the 3 homes on Stanley Street which were previously purchased? I will admit my memory fails me currently on the exact dollar amounts of each of the 3 homes. They had been purchased over a 2 or 3 year period now. I do not remember the specific figures, but I will certainly get those and send an email to Mr. Karatkin with those figures. And I'm happy to report it at a meeting if anybody would like me to. I am also uncertain at this moment what the final cost of the PNC lot will be. Although we are in the final stages of negotiations with them, we are still in the final stages of negotiations. So I, again, will hopefully have a firm number on that relatively soon. And this council, I will be asking them to approve a resolution to actually enter into the contract with PNC. But the final figure for that purchase is not yet an exact dollar amount. So hopefully that will be concluded within the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, when we're working with large financial institutions like this, there's not just one easy contact person that you can bounce a question off and they can sign on a dotted line and this transaction's completed. It's a long and rigorous process through council that takes a lot longer than one might expect through nobody's fault other than there being an entire chain that this process has to pass through.
Next, Mayor.
Yes, the next question from Mr. Karakin is, since the town, what is the estimated total cost to demolish the 3 homes on Stanley Street and to resurface the entire site, including the PNC parking lot for the proposed municipal parking lot? Again, that was similar to the prior question. I will figure out those figures as far as the acquisitions. We do not have the prices yet on the demolitions. That will be something that we may have to go out to bid for. We also, unless it comes in under the bid threshold, which, Mr. Cucci, is $39,000? Correct, the bid threshold?
$40,000.
It's $40,000. So unless it comes in at under $40,000, we will need to go out to bid on that, and then, of course, that will be visible to everyone, although the price will always be made public. And as far as paving, again, that is something else that will need to go out to bid, because I'm certain that the paving of that much square footage will certainly exceed the $40,000 bid threshold. So there will be there's certain to be some additional discussion regarding the PNC parking lot, the demolition, and the resurfacing of the lot. So those questions will be answered in due time. The final question from Mr. Karakin is, since the township intends to install parking meters in the proposed municipal parking lot, is there an estimate as to how many years it will take the township to recoup the total costs incurred in bringing the parking lot to fruition? That is certainly something that myself and Mr. Cuccia, as well as the council, have had a lot of discussion about, and what type of revenues we anticipate the parking meters to generate. Again, this has only been discussion. We have some ideas that we've kicked around ourselves. I guess until the parking meters are installed and we're able to really utilize them, exact figures cannot be provided on that either. But I would assume that, it would take a relatively short period of time actually to recuperate that type of expense. And this is something with surface parking that has certainly been found to be true, is that surface parking, even with acquisitions such as Little Falls has made, is exponentially cheaper than raised or stacked parking decks or garages. The recent estimates on parking garages, because there was certainly some discussion on that as well, has found and proven to be somewhere to the tune of $40,000 to $50,000 per parking space that ends up being installed when it is a parking garage. I believe one of the towns that recently has gone through this exact type of expense is the village of Ridgewood, who is installing a new parking garage near their train station. And I believe they were estimating and anticipating and bonded for an expense of $50,000 per space for that garage to be installed. So this surface parking, despite still being expensive, is exponentially cheaper than elevated or raised parking. So that addresses all of the questions by Mr. Karakin.
Does the council have any questions or comments regarding the questions that were arised by Mr. Karakin? Thank you, Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Karakin, for your concerns and your questions this evening.
Council President, there was one other
Mayor?
concern by a resident, and if you bear with me, I will pull it up right now. And the concern is from Adam Rakin. The comment is, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to see if anything can be done about the constant speeding on East Main Street, starting by Passaic Valley High School, all the way up Long Hill. It is constant all day and night. I also think you are doing a great job with the COVID-19 with updates and keeping us all informed. First, I'll start by commenting thank you. I appreciate that. I certainly put some time into each of the daily updates that I send out town-wide. Again, for those of you watching, I know you're not the ones that need to be aware of this, but by visiting lfnj.com, you can get all the updates, or if you enroll and subscribe for the email blasts, you'll see them. That said, as far as the comment and concern regarding speeding on Long Hill Road, I have already forwarded your concern to our chief, and the chief has just explained that there is already a speed test and speed study that's been conducted on Long Hill Road. It is something that we can certainly discuss with Mr. Rake and try to address any of the concerns that he may have regarding the speeding in that area.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Vanchery, didn't this topic of speeding on Long Hill Road come up 2 meetings ago or so, or a meeting or so ago?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Didn't the question of speeding, or was that at the high school, come up on Long Hill Road a meeting or so ago, or 2 meetings? Wasn't there an issue with speeding on Long Hill Road? I thought you raised, or was that at the high school, or?
No, I was talking about the high school, because what typically happens is a lot of people tend to use Broward Town Road, turn into the high school parking lot, and then zip through to come out on Main Street to avoid, just having to wait at the stop sign. This is something different. I mean, we can look into this as well. I mean, we've worked with the police department, doing some traffic studies, looking at different areas, and we're planning to do that again this summer with the radars on various streets, so we can, keep that on our list from a transportation standpoint.
Council President, if I may, yeah, there was and the chief just forwarded to me, the results of the speed data from April 15th to April 22nd, because you are correct, this was mentioned at a prior meeting. Following those comments, I guess the chief had instructed that a speed study be performed, and there is recent data from April 15th to April 22nd, so just the past week or two ago, that a speed study was done on that street.
Thanks,
so there's
Mayor.
certainly some information.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, we're going to move on. Can I have a motion to approve Resolution A? What?
Public hearing.
Okay, yes. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? I'm sorry. So moved by Councilmember Sieber, second by Councilmember Kwati. All those in favor of closing to the public signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion signify by saying nay. Okay, motion carries. So we're going to move on to approve resolutions A through D, which is the awarding the contract to Millennium, establishing the rate of interest, resolution of a settlement of tax appeals, and the resolution authorizing tax collector to issue estimated tax bills. That's A through D. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilmember Kawadi. Mrs. Kraus, call the roll for resolutions A through D.
Councilmember Coordinator? Yes. Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber? Yes. Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Kraus. Please read ordinance, we'll move on to new business. Read ordinance 1383.
Introduction of ordinance number 1383, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the installation of a synthetic turf multipurpose athletic field at Duva Field in by and for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $3 million to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to appropriate state and county grants, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds, with a second reading and public hearing scheduled for May 18th, 2020.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1383?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Sieber. Mrs. Kraus, call the roll on 1383.
Councilmember Coordinator? Yes. Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber? Yes. Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, please read ordinance 1384.
Introduction of ordinance number 1384, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the acquisition of real property for public parking in by and for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $500,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds, with a second reading and public hearing scheduled for May 18th, 2020.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1384?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilman Vanchery. Mrs. Kraus, call the roll on 1384.
Councilmember Coordinator? Yes. Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber? Yes. Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Before we move on to council topics, Mrs. Kraus, please note the role that our police chief Post is on the call. Our engineer, Tom Lemanowitz, is also joining this meeting, and Councilor Joe Wenzel is also has partaken in this meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Kawadi.
Thank you, Council President. I'm glad to see that, as the mayor reported, that some of the COVID cases seem to be leveling off, but I hope that with the warm weather coming in, that people don't ignore the social distancing guidelines that are in place. I think that the numbers that we're seeing, while they're encouraging, are best used to exemplify that the social distancing is working and not that it's not necessary. So I just want to encourage everyone to please continue to do that. The Domestic Violence Prevention Committee is meeting tomorrow night, and we are going to continue to provide information to people who may need assistance, and that information will come out as it has through the mayor's Facebook page and emails from the township, as well as my personal Facebook page as well. And just lastly, I look at what we talked about in this meeting, air conditioning at the rec center, turf field at the rec center, parking around town, and it's encouraging to me to know how well the town is moving forward through this crisis, not just dealing with the crisis, but making Little Falls a better place to live, which has always been our goal. And I feel like we're taking great steps in that direction so that when all of this is over, people will emerge from their homes and find Little Falls a better place than it was before COVID-19. And that's encouraging, and I hope the residents that are listening to this meeting are as encouraged by it as I am. Thank you.
It's very well said, Councilman Kawadi. And I just want to circle back. I know you work with our Clean Communities Coordinator, Dorothy Capalbo, and I know this is the second weekend in a row that the DPW has been out cleaning the streets under the mayor's guidance. So it looks like our community is getting cleaner. So I just want to commend you for keeping that program up and adapting to some changes I think that also need to be made. I think the mayor is trying to also reach out and get our, what they call off-ramps. I think we have 3 or 4 of those also cleaned up. Is that correct? Is that?
Yes, we're talking to the mayor. There's a bit of a long-standing policy that the state property is just that, property of the state, and the township does not maintain it. But I've had discussions with the mayor about reconsidering that policy because, you know, when people drive into our town, that's what they see first, right? Those off-ramps a lot of time are our front door. And so it behooves us to keep them cleaner, even though it may not be technically our responsibility. It's a benefit to our residents. And people are quite irresponsible at the off-ramps. It's where we often see most of the litter in town. And thank you, Council President, for bringing up the efforts of the DPW, who were out again this weekend cleaning streets. And we were trying to get ahead of some of the places where litter has accumulated, once again, in the hopes that making Little Falls a better place to live just by keeping it cleaner, because not everybody who litters is a Little Falls resident, but we're the ones who bear the brunt of it. So please be diligent as residents and don't litter, and take notice that the town is getting cleaner as we move forward.
You know, this brings to mind an issue that I'd like to get the council input so that we could have this discussion with the mayor and think about it. With the newspaper that's delivered, I think, and I'm sorry, is it PV Today? It seems that thin newspaper does fly around, and we've talked about this. I know some towns have actually put an ordinance against it, but I'd like to get some of the council members' input on that, because that is an issue. Those papers do fly around, whether or not we feel that's the freedom of the press, where that should be okay, and we'll just continue to pick them up, or what's the council thoughts on that?
Well, Council President, I know we brought it up last year about the possibility of entertaining, an ordinance to, stop these papers, but I know in the past as well, Mr. Simone has reached out to the PD Today to let them know, because a lot of times it's the deliveries where whoever's delivering it, it never makes the front porch. It usually makes the front curb, or it ends up on the street. It's never like on top of people's property. So that's something too to explore, where Mr. Simone can reach out again, like he's done previously. And I remember at a council meeting a few years ago, he even mentioned how one of his complaints resulted in them getting rid of the person that was making those deliveries at the time.
Okay. Any other council members have any comments to that?
I remember years ago when the Today paper was mailed, and so I would love to see them return to that model where it ends up in everybody's mailbox and they all read it, rather than on a rainy day where they all end up either in the gutter or in the trash. So me personally, I feel like I welcome the paper, right? We need local news for sure, but it shouldn't be handled in a way that makes our township look messy. And so I would hope they would consider going back to that model.
Councilmember Sieber, do you have any input?
I do believe in freedom of the press, and I think this could be a valuable service. I also think that might not always be necessary at homes, and maybe if there's even whether or not it stays free, but perhaps a subscription-based, so it is not at every doorstep for those who are not interested or do not want to partake in it, or perhaps read the news, read TV Today news online and don't want a physical copy of it. So I think if they could maybe tighten up some subscription-based paper, that would also help eliminate some unnecessary garbage.
Thank you. Councilmember Coordinator?
Of course, I echo the sentiments of my fellow council members that I definitely support freedom of the press, and it's unfortunate that we have lost so many different newspapers, and there's been so much merging that you're very limited in terms of local news especially, so I would hate to see us no longer have this particular newspaper. However, we do have to look at the nuisance issue of it. I would like to see first Mr. Simone push back to the newspaper about a more responsible way of delivering to make sure that it does go on the steps of residents and it's just not thrown willy-nilly, and let them know that there is a real possibility that we might move to ban it because of this particular issue. I also look at, now many more people are jogging and riding their bikes. And when the newspapers are in the streets or they don't make it to the doorstep, getting caught up, I've seen it get caught up in bicycles or run or trip over it. So there's a couple of things we need to look at, but I'd like to first see us push back to the newspaper.
Thank you. That's well said, Councilmember Coordinator, about the safety. Mayor, so you heard the comments of the council. Maybe you could facilitate Mr. Simone in having that dialogue with that paper and trying to get them to adhere to some of the ideas that the council members have brought forth tonight. Councilmember Vancheri.
Thanks, Council. As I mentioned previously, with the current situation, we've canceled a few of our events, including the Memorial Day activities. However, I've been in discussions with Herb Brichta from the American Legion, and we're trying to do something where we could virtually broadcast the Memorial Day services because, as I've said before, Memorial Day is about honoring the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So him and I are connecting this week to sort of map out a plan how we could potentially keep the ceremonies going. The other thing I do want to mention, too, is I reached out to the New Jersey Jackals up on Montclair State because we had planned to have our Little Falls night next month on June 26th. However, with the current environment for sports, everything has been put on hold. I've reached out to their general manager to, probably end up postponing it and rescheduling until later this year because as of now, their season has been put on hold and they don't really have any new updates. So I just wanted to make sure that we are at least connecting with them, that we're looking to push this back in light of the current environment. The last thing I do want to say is, as Councilman Kwati touched on a little while ago, we still need to be mindful of social distancing and follow all the rules. I think for the most part, everyone has been doing their part, but we are still seeing on the news, and I'm sure others have seen it around town and other parts of the state where some folks are not adhering to these rules. And I just stress that even though our numbers right now are in a good spot, it's far from over, and we just need to continue to practice social distancing, and hopefully, we'll get some updates. And I know it was a tough thing for a lot of parents today. As a parent of two, believe me, Mr. and Mrs. Vancheri teachers, we're looking forward to now another month of school with the kids. It is tough, and I feel for all the students, especially the 8th graders, as well as even the kids at the high school that are graduating, because they're not going to really get that moment that they've been working so hard for. And I hope that, eventually, at some point, whether it's in the summer or right before the start of the fall year, that the kids will get a chance to get together to acknowledge the milestone for the 8th grade as well as 12th. That's it for me.
Yes, thank you for those great points. It is a tough situation, as the mayor also said before, about the 8th graders graduating and not being able to participate with their dance or their graduation in the festivities. Thank you for those comments. Councilmember Coordinator.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I don't have anything to report from my committee. However, I just want to express that this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and especially after today's news, I think now more than ever, we should express our appreciation to our teachers, particularly our teachers in Little Falls or Little Falls schools, and of course our high school, for the great job that they are doing with our virtual learning and all of the other extracurricular things that they're coming up with to do virtually. It's really impressive, and so I want to just give a shout out to all of the teachers. I also want to say kudos to the great effort of getting the signs with all of our graduating 8th graders up in front of School 1. If you had a chance to drive by, it was really great to see that, and I'm sure that it gave all of the 8th graders and their families a lift to see that, and I know that all of those signs are going to get delivered to each of the 8th graders to put on their lawn. And, lastly, I am, of course, very thankful that we had a stabilizing couple of days here in Little Falls. That's encouraging news. I want to reiterate, as both Councilman Vancherry and Councilman Kawadi, about how important social distancing is. I know we're all really excited and happy that the governor has opened the state parks, and that's really wonderful. But people do need to remember social distancing, and they also need to remember to wear a mask. You've probably seen different celebrities on television or on Facebook, or just a lot of Facebook posts saying, "I wear a mask for you, please wear a mask for others." So in closing, I'm going to say, from me personally, I wear a mask for you, please wear a mask for others. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Coordinator. Yes, those signs are quite an impact statement. I walked past them the other night, and I think they were very well done, very nice quality, and it was a great tribute to those graduating seniors. And yes, thank you for wearing a mask for me. I will also do as well as the mayor and everyone else here. Thank you, Councilmember Coordinator. Councilmember Sieber?
Yes, thank you. As a parent of an 8th grader here in Little Falls, I was very excited to see my daughter's picture on one of those signs, and honestly can't wait to have it on my front lawn. And really great job by our Little Falls school system and our superintendent, Mrs. Marinelli, for getting that project done. It was really quite happy. They also created a film for the 8th grade students, which I know had brought tears to several of the parents' eyes. So it was really sweet to see them continuing to pay homage to 8th grade and not make them feel like perhaps they're losing out on something, but showcasing all that they continue to gain. That being said, just one quick update for Little Falls Public Library. But I did want to mention that this Thursday we do have a virtual book club happening from 7 p.m. On Zoom. So you can dial in, and the information is available on social media, Facebook and Instagram. You can always reach out to and email the public library for additional if you have any problems signing in. The book is The Mountain Sings, and the book is also available digitally, so you can go ahead and download it, and then this way you can partake in the virtual book club for the library this Thursday at 7 p.m. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for that good report. Anything else that the council wants to add for discussion?
Hey, Council President?
Yes, is that Councilor Renzo?
No, it's Vancherry.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Vancherry, excuse me, go ahead.
I was wondering if you or the mayor just wanted to touch on, too, the rec center has been putting out a number of different activities as well as some fundraising, opportunities to help some of the groups in town, including ordering signs and stuff. You guys wanted to just touch on that?
Mayor, would you like to, ordering signs in regard to, do you want to be a little bit more specific?
Supporting, first responders as well as essential workers.
Mm-hmm. And that's, who's putting out that request, Councilman Vancherry?
It was through the rec department, so I was just wondering if you wanted to touch on some of the stuff that the rec department's working on.
Mayor?
Sure. So the Recreation Center partnered with All County Apparel, who has created Little Falls Strong apparel, whether it be hoodies, sweatshirts, T-shirts, things of the sort, as well as lawn signs. And by visiting All County Apparel's website or the Township of Little Falls Recreation Department on Facebook, you can follow the link to All County Apparel from there, and it will load a website. The Township, since just late last week, has raised a total of $2,025 on these particular items. So they are certainly selling. They are donating 100% of the net profits back to municipalities that we can then utilize those funds to spend it on first responders and things of the sort as we deem fit and necessary. So it is certainly a great venture and a good endeavor. They have green T-shirts, black T-shirts, green crew neck sweatshirts, charcoal crew neck sweatshirts. They have gray hoodie sweatshirts and Little Falls Strong lawn signs. So they are certainly there. All of the net proceeds are coming back to the municipality to support our first responders. And you could visit that, or you could purchase them by visiting All County Apparel and going to the Little Falls section. So it is, again, if you want to get your Little Falls Strong and hoodies and things of the sort to support the town, you can certainly get them there.
So could you go, Mayor, go on our township website to get these, or you have to go link it into the rec
You
center?
know what? I will tell you that by tonight or tomorrow, I will ask our township webmaster to get a link to these on the website. This was just done as of Friday at about 2 p.m. So I will send that over to him this evening and ask him to get this up on our website as well. So it will also be on our website, but you can, right now, if you want it this minute, you can go to the Township of Little Falls Recreation Department on Facebook, and you will see the apparel as one of the top items most recently posted by the Little Falls Rec Center.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. At this time, can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilman Kawadi. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting on May 4, 2020, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. This meeting is now closed. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone.